I think the clock is here now. It's about 4 o'clock. And it's the last sequence before weekend. So I presume you want me to pursue this until about 17:15 at least. So I think I'll just begin. It seems like the last ones are coming. I'm very aware that this is the last session before the weekend. And I'm very happy actually to be here right now giving this talk. So in this talk, I will tell a story that has already partially been told. So the story has been widely published, also presented detailed reports, analysis, and was discussed by peers and gurus worldwide. And since this is the final session on a Friday, I'll try to make it entertaining for us all. And I've set the entire story in a Star Wars narrative. And all the Star Wars references, for all you geeks out there, I'm one of them. They are most likely inaccurate and only used for narrative purposes. And since this is also going to be recorded and played on YouTube, I guess, I owe it to both Lucas and Disney. I'm sorry, I have stolen your content. It is my decision. It is not Visma's decision. So blame Espen, not Visma, for this. So the character set in this story, because all stories, they have characters. And in this room, we have one character in particular. So I know that we have Erlend over there. Most people have heard of Erlend, so I will use him as part of the narrative build-up. But I will come more back to that. So you know Erlend, after all, is sitting over there. He's kind of a big shot in Norwegian security. So who am I? The character Espen Johansen. I am an ex-military guy. I've done some private intelligence operations. That's where I come from. My job for many years was to be infiltrator in the pirate communities and basically try to hack hackers, read their forums, and try to figure out what they were up to. That was my job for several years. Today, I'm none of those. I am called tryggleikssjef, which is a very weird Norwegian word. It means safety manager of some kind. That was a word named by the Norwegian broadcaster after this incident, basically. They called me tryggleikssjef. But my main job is to be a daddy. I have 3 beautiful daughters that live at home, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in about 3 or 4 hours. I'm also a husband, but the official title is Product Security Director. So basically, I'm in charge of the security of the company Visma. So my real job is to assist about 350 teams within the field of application security. And it's about 5,000 plus developers because we basically buy about 20 companies a year. So I never know how many people that's in there. And we sell something from time to time. So I honestly don't know how many they are. There's a lot of them, and they're all brilliant. My job is to provide methods, tools, and to stand in the front lines and defend together with them. So I have some abilities as the character in this story. I'm quite good at fundraising. So I'm quite proud to say that we have a very well-funded security program in Visma, and I'm spending millions on that. And I'm very happy to be able to spend those money on security. I've become quite good at attribution lately, and parts of this story is going to talk about the attribution effort that we have gone into, tried to be set in a more fun narrative. And influencing, mainly internally. I think my main strength as a leader is to be able to translate between developers and top management. So I also sit in a couple of the boards. That means to translate between the actual smart people of Visma, which are the developers, and also the ones who run the business, which are the top level executives. That is my level job. It is to translate between them. I think I do well in that job. The other character is Visma itself. So our strengths, we do have a kind of CERT, or a C-CERT we call it. It's a security incident response team. It is a 24/7 organization. It's quite well funded. It kind of works. We also have a very heavily focused on product security. And those who work with product security in Visma, you know this is to be true. We actually focus on this. We take a lot of effort in these things. Our weaknesses, it's our sheer size. We're kind of like Jabba the Hutt over here. We are big in the Norwegian context. Compared to the ones of Microsoft and others, we are tiny. But compared to many other Norwegian companies, we are quite large. We are complex. We have lots of employees, and we have too many servers. As I mentioned, we buy about 20 companies a year. These companies are not new ones populated by people at 25 years old. They are my age, the ones who lead them. They are in their 40s and 50s. They have been in the business for a while, and they have developed over time, and they are bloody good at what they do. So some of them have some quirks. They have some servers under their cupboards. They have all of these things that we know from some other companies. And so do we, because we buy many companies. So it's difficult to onboard these to a good governance very fast. The other character in this case is the empire. The report that is the basis for this points to one of the empires, and I will come back to which empire it is. But the empire in this case, they have overwhelming resources. They attack multiple targets, and they seem to be driven by power and coin, many coin. And in this case, and if you take the bother of reading the actual report, which has been shared globally, you'll find out that they have some weaknesses. They seem to work within office hours. And this is interesting. This is a good tips for you that do kind of threat hunting and threat intelligence in your own companies. Look at the timestamps. When are the actions performed? When is the action on objective? Is it within a time zone, within the 8-hour time zone that is normal for humans to work? Try to figure out where that is in the world. And you will find really cool results. Just by measuring the clock, you can find out many cool things. Other thing is playbooks. This particular empire seemed to be obsessed with playbooks. So in our case, as you can read from the report, the actual initial attack vectors that they attacked also had the existence of remote code execution on them. So as a good hacker, if you find a server with an RCE on it, you of course use that. This didn't. It followed its playbook that it has repeated numerous times before. So it kind of looks like they're very good at putting up production lines, very good at specializing people on different tasks. These are weaknesses of this particular empire. So let's set the story. Once, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, the empire strikes. The story is about the alliance and the empire. General Moan is an acronym for Espen Moan, who founded the company. So he has ordered his security troopers to protect the Visma galaxy. And Supreme Leader Rascal, that is kind of the term I've coined to describe any nation-state actor. They are just rascals, motivated by something else than financial stuff. So I don't know their motivation, but they're always a rascal somewhere. He has deployed his merciless legions to seize control of the galaxy. And we, as the Alliance commanders, we just do our normal job. So we are now in August 2018. This is the time frame. So it is a while ago. The Empire has massive operations for credential harvest. We have massive evidence to suggest large-scale phishing attacks. Lots of phishing attacks. And sometimes far, far away from the target. So we can see examples of phishing attacks happening against the private sector of our employees. Not definitively against our own domain, but against their private equities, like email accounts, everything they can get their hands on. From the report, you can also see that we have done lots of interviews with the ones who were hit. Had they been victim of other kinds of attacks, like watering hole attacks and stuff, but we couldn't find any evidence of that. What we can find evidence of is phishing. Traditional, good, old-fashioned phishing, but done in a very smart way. The Empire again, when they had completed their phishing attacks, the recon, as we call it, they prepare for the assault, and all targets are go. And when I say the General Rascal deploys his merciless troops, this happens about 8 days before, if I remember correctly. D-7, that is 7 days before. That is when the deployment of the command and control domain called myfomanager.com was deployed. So we're a big company. We have 4,500 domains that we own. Myfomanager.com is not an acronym. It's not in any way related to any of these domains. So that was kind of freakish, because our intelligence systems would have found it if it was something that looked like something we do have. It was not something that looked like something we did have. But that was the command and control domain. It was spawned D-7. That is when the actual attack began, 7 days before the actual penetration of Visma. At the same time, several command and control domains was also spawned. And all of these are mentioned in reports. So if some of them looks like your own brand name, you might want to have a look. And please read our report for IOCs. You can see if they have been targeting you also at the same time. The Alliance, however, we were in a state of bliss. We had no ID. Our intelligence did not pick this up. Phishing is something that happens every day anyhow. So we didn't pay attention to this. At this point in time, I was actually on a home guard exercise, as one of my hobbies is part of the armed forces. So I was then a commanding officer. I had a couple of hundred soldiers, and we were up in the remote parts of Norway, playing around in the woods. We weren't aware of this. We got some intelligence. So the intelligence could suggest that this particular empire had some campaigns going about. So we were aware of it, but we didn't see ourselves as a target. So we were not very aware. We had some indicators showing that this empire did this kind of phishing attacks, but the appearance of the command and control domain was not known to us. We didn't see this as a threat. So I was still, again, happy. I was still in the woods and having fun with my soldiers. So the Empire strikes. We are now on D-Day, which is in August 2018. They infiltrate. They use weak passwords and harvested credentials. They gain access to a Citrix server that we hadn't paid very well attention to. So in that case, I mentioned earlier that this also had a remote code execution on it. That remote code execution was also discovered by one of our beloved friends through the responsible disclosure system. One of the bounty hunters found this, and we actually paid him $4,000 for his job, because we like it when people find vulnerabilities in our systems and tell us. But they didn't utilize this. They utilized weak passwords. So this is a good quiz. It's a good thing to have on a Friday to activate the crowd, I've been told. So the password policy at this time was 12 character plus medium entropy. So what was this password? And I will give you a very good clue. This was in August 2018. What was the password? Come on, you can know this. August 2018, yes, with an exclamation mark in addition. That was the password that was utilized. So in this case, I stand corrected because I was following the NIST guidelines. I was telling people to change passwords every 3 months. That was damn stupid of me. So after this, I stopped listening to NIST. I started listening to Per Torsheim. He's now one of my heroes because he has told me the same story year out and year in. Do not change passwords too often. Give them password manager, make them long and all of that stuff. So that's what we do now. That's a good learning from this. Do not force your people to change password often unless you give them the methods to do this securely. So in this case, they infiltrate the Alliance. And I will use now the beloved master over here, Alan, as the example. So Alan logs in. This is good Alan. So Alan logs in. There is no anomaly in his login. So Alan logs into the Citrix server as he normally does. He behaves as normal. There are no differences that can be spotted in the IP range or any of the headers. So we could still look like a legitimate Alan. So Alan has logged into the server now. So after a while, Alan becomes, well, nasty Alan. But we like our people to be a bit nasty because we like the employees to challenge us a bit. So we don't respond well to this yet. So Alan behaves differently. He scouts out additional targets. So just to stand on the Citrix server and look around. Well, what can be the harm in that? So still, we don't understand the difference. We don't see the anomaly yet. So Alan is now not just Alan, he's nasty Alan. We like them a bit nasty, these guys. So the war itself. Quite fast, nasty Alan becomes badass Alan, because badass Alan has now acquired admin privileges. He uses simple available tools like Mimikatz to escalate privileges. He moves laterally, and he tries to find something else. What is he after? Yes, he's after the thing that every hacker in the world is after. So what do you believe every hacker sees as the main trophy in a big company? A small hint, we all use it every day when we log on if you have a Microsoft platform. Yes, it's the Active Directory. That's what they're after, isn't it? So badass Alan has transformed completely. So they sneak into the main operating facility, in this meaning Active Directory, and they plant a new tool, Red Leaves or Trochilus, depending on how you see it. It's of course openly available out there. You can find it on GitHub and play with it. But here comes another clue. They don't use a standard version of it. They have their own specialty. And this is where we can, in the analysis, see evidence of beauty. So when I see a good attack, I see it as beautiful. When I see a kind of traditional organized crime attack, it is just brute force. It's not elegant at all. But this has traces of elegance in it. So that attacker is obviously good at what they do. But the cool thing is that badass Alan, he does have company now. He's not even badass alone anymore. So you can see evidence in our logs that Alan is not alone. So several keyboards are used and several hands are used, but they all seem to have very distinct jobs. So maybe we should call Alan a cyborg, because that's what he has become. He is now completely through his metamorphosis. So from good Alan to nasty to bad to becoming a cyborg. Now lots of things is happening at the same time. They grab hold of the Active Directory hive and they exfiltrate it. They carry the box of treasures and dropped it off at the rendezvous. So how many of you in the room use Dropbox? Come on, you all do. And now it's ratified by the Empire. They also use that for their attack surface. So it was exfiltrated to Dropbox. This was part of the pattern that we saw. What was very delightful at this time, so we finally learned about the intrusion through the Responsible Disclosure Program. One of our good friends, part of our strategy, is to send our beloved alliance out far and wide to lots of security conferences, meet people, learn, and liaise. And one of these liaisons really came in handy. This was a bounty hunter whose name shall be undisclosed because his job is to work undercover and monitor actors like this. He had found data on Dropbox that didn't seem to belong to the one he was monitoring. So he told us through the Responsible Disclosure Program, and after that, things started to happen really fast. I'm still on the exercise up in the mountains, and about some hours after this, I was not on the exercise anymore. I was headed home very fast. In this case, my gut feeling, my gut response was to try to blame the ones who had the responsibility for the monitoring. That's my fault. So in this case, when you have a big system like this, you generate terabytes of logs. But how do you give people the ability to read them and respond well to them? That was my second fault. So first fault, ask people to change passwords too often. Second fault, not provide enough time and resources to analyze and process logs in real time. So now starts the incident response. This is the blue team story. So my part of this, I now leave the exercise. I think there's actually a picture of me somewhere in the deep of Visma with a helmet on, where they kind of reached out to me on Hangout while I was on exercise. And I said some words like, wake up the president, deploy the jets, or scramble the jets and deploy the National Guard, this kind of urgency. The AD hive, it is not supposed to leak. We cannot leak that. So observe, and react, notify all commanders, remove intruders, that's part of the job. But my job in this phase is to collect evidence. The collection of evidence and not destroying it when you throw them out. This is crucial that these two things happen at the same time. This is learning from experience. It's very easy to evict people, but it's difficult to maintain evidence at the same time. People are needed for that. I also met up with both the Police Secret Service, SEPO, SUPO, NSM, and all the others, the ones that I know personally. Because when we are attacked, some of the indicators indicate this was a sophisticated attacker. So we needed to ensure that all the data we had about the attacker was shared with authorities immediately so that the TLP red messages could start flowing in the different certs to alert others that might be hit by this. One of the most fun parts is that some men in black were flown in with helicopter for one of our locations, not in Norway, because that actor also wanted to share intelligence with us. They had information that could be useful for us. This was a pivotal moment. The fog of war, a place where I love to be, but it's kind of tricky for many people. Lots of hazy details. You don't know exactly what's going on. You are really desperately trying to do threat hunting. You're really digging deep inside your organization to figure out what has really happened. Are they still inside? Who, what, when? Our clear experiences, the war log and the war room, it's imperative. I'm ex-military, so therefore I use these kind of cool terms. But the war log is very simple. You write your own activities in blue and the enemy's activities in red. It's easier when you later on need to do examination of this. And the war room, well, basically, what do you have? We are on Google, so basically Hangouts. We make a good, big Google Hangout group where we can discuss. We try to use the same systems that developers and people use every day. We tried the other way around. It kind of fucked up. It didn't work. But you use the things that people are used to using. You communicate in the channels that people are used to communicating in. Like in Jira, you communicate in all the normal channels. Also, one of my main tasks in this phase was to ensure that none of the customer systems was touched. That was, luckily for us, a very easy task. The separation between corporate and products is good. It's strong, and I could rely on that. So we did lots of checking in all the services just to make sure. That was nerve-wracking like hell for me, to be quite honest. But it was only corporate, then I could relax a bit. It was the AD hive, which basically means we have lots of work ahead of us. The scrambling, we hunt for more enemy presence. We do jar scans, patches, we shut down legacy servers, and this is a good thing. Damn, it was good. We had the attention of everybody, 10,000 people. We had a full, undivided attention of everybody. This was the time to do good for security. Shut down all crap. Get rid of all that stuff that we have been dying to get rid of. And nobody questioned two-factor authentication anymore. It was so easy to get all of these good hygiene efforts in. It was a beautiful time. I love this stuff. When it comes to the increase of logging, some of the systems had not very good logging routines, so we could fixed all the basic stuff, get that stuff together. And we discovered so much legacy. It's almost painful, but we discovered lots of legacy. So the Empire, they persisted. They tried to get in again. So we used NTLM v2 hashes in the AD hive. That gave us 7 days. So now you know, you have 7 days against a big attacker. That's when they first started trying to log in with their stolen credentials. And it was the short ones that was tried first. It was not the long ones. That we have quite good evidence of. And you can also read that in the report. To our knowledge, they have not been successful in gaining access again to our systems. But we are still monitoring. We are still really, really hyped on this actor. I think it was said from a wise guy that was not from Norway, that once you're on their customer list, they don't take you away that easily. So we are on their customer list at least now. But now we know about this. Now we can at least be more precise in our intelligence efforts and our intelligence analysis. So the disclosure part, we decided very early that we needed to be transparent about this. It was also very apparent to us at this time in this incident. So now we're talking about D-Day plus about 7. It's about 7 days in. That this was most probably a nation-state actor. I narrowed it down to 2 of them. It was either the one or the other. I wasn't sure. So I needed an adult to have a look at this. So I turned around and tried to figure out who are the adults in the room, who can I trust? I asked the National Security Authority, I asked all the others. All of them had very good leads, but they were not allowed to talk about this. So I couldn't use that data, and I still cannot use that data. So I will not even disclose that data to you. But I had to find some kind of private company that could help me with this, that was willing to talk. I chose Recorded Future. I could have chosen Intelligence House or any one of the others, but I chose to use them because they were willing to go public. So we wanted to control the force, and we wanted to educate, because this was not a fun experience. But kind of the least fun is to change passwords for 10,000 users in a couple of days in a secure manner, that, and also take care of the golden ticket factor. Because the golden ticket, the one account that you do not want to lose from Active Directory, was also lost. So how do you mitigate all of this? Luckily, the blue team is quite good, so they were able to figure out the ways to do that. Because they changed the password a couple of times, not just one, but a couple of times you have to change them. So it takes a while to fix this stuff. General Mohan, he agreed to disclosure. That was not difficult. He has the same kind of principle behind him. He likes transparency. And it is a guiding principle for us. We are not allowed to keep secrets. And I've also, as the director of security, have disallowed all developers to keep secrets from each other. So if you have a vulnerability in one of your systems, you're not allowed to keep that a secret. You have to share that information with clients if they ask to. The only job of the developing team is to fix the vulnerabilities, not hide them, keep them in the dark, and cultivate them. So fix the stuff. We were lucky. We were able to do controlled disclosure. If it was uncontrolled, I would say that I'm in awe of Norwegian Hydro for their press coverage. They were actually reporting from the trenches. I see that Hydro communication effort as masterclass in how to do this. That must have been frightfully painful for those in the firing line, because you don't have information. I didn't have to stand in front of the press while I didn't have information. I could wait until we had information, but only because I was sure I had definitive evidence that no customer systems was touched. If they had been touched, we had to precede Hydro in this, and that would not have been so comfortable. So I must say that I was nervous as hell at this stage. I was freakishly nervous because I was appointed to do the media management myself. And I could remember from my early days in the Officers Academy, we had a 2-day course in media training. That was back in the early 90s. That was all. But the only job I had was from corporate, was Espen, you're going to have to take it because you have been involved in this case from the start until now, and you know the most of it. And I was told to be honest, transparent, and do not lie. That was all I was told. But my wife, however, she thought better. I am not often in the press. So before this time, I was not in any media. So she asked me to go to the hairdresser before I went to work that day. That was my guidance. Make sure you have fresh cut hair. Articles was released through the galaxy. It was 12 o'clock. And damn, I was afraid, because this was big. My little personal story on this is very simple. From before, when you searched for my name on Google, you could find that I had some daughters that I liked to run with, and a picture of my wife and myself. That was all, because I tried to protect my privacy. Now I can never do any secret work evermore again in my life, because my name is now associated with this, if you search. So it's Steel and Visma in China and Secret in Norway and stuff like that. And the hair is because my wife asked me to go to the hairdresser. I look like a moron, but that's how it is. The articles that was released, there was 264 editorial articles released in less than 36 hours. 3,000 individual Twitter accounts tweeted about this. So it was a massive news footprint. 250 million people read about this globally in 48 hours. I didn't expect this kind of media coverage, neither did Visma. So we were not very happy about that, I must say. I was really freaked out in this phase. But some of the articles gave me something very good, like this one in Reuters by Sam Curry, where he basically gave us kudos for going out public. That was very warming, and we shared that article inside the Blue Team. This was very good for us. Most of the other ones, I also learned something very important, good learning, is that if a newspaper has war types, and it said Visma hacked, and nothing more. These journalists are just people. They are really nice and caring people. They always write their name and their phone number in that same article. It's basically a subtle way of telling you, please call me. So when you call them, the word types change immediately into something more modest. That is a good learning. Word types, call the guy, talk to them, and give them the truth. One of my highlights in this was that I was mentioned in Klassekampen. I didn't expect this. We were also mentioned in Chinese press and also in many other places of the world. And I do not know how to read Chinese, but Google translate this. So China hacked Norway's Visma, basically. That was said at least in Chinese mainstream news. This was when I got the payback for being public. This was at least my personal goal with this. This was when people that I really respect started to make comments about the case. This is Erik from Mnemonic, who is also quite good at this with attribution, one of the leading figures in Norway. And I also got some information from some of the Microsoft teams, who I know is really, really good at this. And they were discussing, they were not agreeing to the initial attribution that was given to APT-10. And APT-10 is then attributed to Chinese MSS, the Chinese Intelligence Agency. They meant it was APT-31. But to put that into Norwegian context, it's not that different. 31 is like the guys on Kolsås, and 10 is like the guys on Lutmon. So it's the same people, anyhow. It's the same grouping, but it's just small, subtle differences. So from our perspective, we at least had validation. It was likely that it was Chinese MSS that was behind this. So from my perspective, I've also learned now, and this happened after this has been released, that the report from Recorded Future and the press coverage has now been the curriculum of several universities, at least in Norway that I'm aware of. It's being used by students to learn. And what I really hope for is that some really smart student or researcher finds an alternative explanation in all of that data that we have shared. So, and I hope that they can publish something, they can learn something from it, or even teach us something. That is the intent of being transparent with this. So I don't know of too many of these kind of shared attributions, but I hope that many others do the same thing. We need to learn how to attribute. The feedback we have gotten from the industry, at least, is a good job. Most of the industry seem to agree that this is a good job, and they appreciate the effort. Some of the owners was kind of not so happy in the beginning, but they're very happy now, because they see that this works. It is a new way of trying to deal with things by being open and transparent about things. So some of the learnings from the inside is to define the enemy in very simple categories. We have the thieves, and we have the rascals. The thieves, in this case, are the financially motivated ones. They're easier to attribute to. They're easier to play with. The nation states, they are freakishly difficult to detect. They are really good at what they do, most of them. Some of them are horrendous, but some of them are really, really good. And to try to figure out what is the difference, what is the motivation of the attacker, and who are they, that has become an art form, at least for us and many others, I presume. But this little guy, the chicken, is something that we try to teach, because when you go on the hunt, when you do attribution, we have learned that there are limits for what we should do. So we as developers, we can build whatever we want. So we can choose to build something like we do in Visma for accountants, or we can choose to use the same competency to build very destructive tools if we want to. So we can, of course, build a very invasive surveillance mechanism. We can build stuff that can be implanted into cell phones. We can build all of that stuff because that's the power of a developer. So when you can feel the chicken inside you telling that you've gone a bit too far, Espen, then it's time to stop. Because it's not the job of the security industry or Visma or any other company to do the job of the police or the nation states. So we have to be careful of how we use our skill sets. If we go too far in our efforts in finding the criminals, then we become one of the criminals ourselves. That's a profound learning. So the chicken is my guiding star. When he tells me that it's time to relax a bit, my testosterone has taken the hand off me, or the caffeine has been too much for me, then it's time to cool down. Other chickens, and also why we do this, I've been very careful in kind of masking the ones who was also hit by the same actor. This is also a profound learning. So the companies, the kind of media around this is a very good auditor called Jack Stubbs in Reuters. He's writing a lot about these nation-state attacks. And many companies have been hit by the same actor. They have chosen not to talk about this. They might have very good reasons, so I respect that. Some people cannot talk about this because of the value of their shares or stuff like that, and I truly respect that. But I think we owe it to ourselves as security professionals and developers to ask the question, why should we not talk about this? What is the actual reasoning by? I know that some of these are now being hit with lawsuits from their clients because they have been deprived of information that could be critical for them. So the article is called Stealing Clouds. or China Cyber Cloud Hopper. I really encourage you to read that. And of course, I've blanked out everyone who is hit, so you don't have to take it from me that I've been trying to out them, because I'm not trying to do that. So attribution, it is very hard. The who and the why in the case. And the empires and rascals are everywhere. And kind of the leading thing is that if you log something, read the logs, for God's sake. Read them. Don't just log stuff, but read the logs, understand them, parse them, put them into context, and understand them. Attribution, we have some experience in this now. We are able to perform basic attribution ourselves. I wouldn't say that we are on the level where we can attribute to any nation state in real time, but they all use patterns, and the patterns are distinct. If you pay attention to the patterns, you can see where it comes from, most likely, but you cannot be sure until you have dug deeper and really reflected on it. And this is a key point for us as developers and also as security managers. Attribution means dollars from top management. And the reasoning is very simple. So if I come to my board of directors, if you just assume that you are now my board of directors, and I tell you that we have been attacked by someone, and they stole our Active Directory. So what are their actions? What can they do with that? The only thing they can do is either say, can we keep this a secret? Or do you need more money, Espen? How do you protect us to avoid this from happening next time? Or they can say, you're fired. In with a new guy, so now we have fired someone, we have done an executive action. But when you give them the other option, this was done most likely by MSS. It's a nation-state actor, and most likely because they were after this kind of data. It's part of their operational modus. Well, you give them a choice of actions. You give them a space to act. And in face of nation states, the recommendation from the best advisors we had was to go public, because that is a deterrent. The fear of losing face, the fear of being exposed, is omnipresent in the spy world. So our default with nation state attacks now is to go public, regardless of which nation state it is. If it is someone from the US attacking us, we will go public. If it is someone from the UK, or from Iran, or from Israel, or from Russia, or from China, or even the Swedes, even those we would go public with. And we have 3 cases closed. I cannot talk about the 2 other ones, but I'm looking forward to tell the 2 other cases. One of them is sitting in prison in Norway, awaiting his trial. And the third one is also awaiting trial elsewhere in the world. So when the courts have made their decisions, I'm allowed to talk about those cases, but not before. One of the really important things is to forge alliances. Do cyber threat intelligence, use the certs, and get a relationship to police. I even have a program called Adopt a Cop inside Visma now. Adopt a Cop is very simple. Get to know your local police officer. If you live in Oslo, figure out who it is. Her name is Christina Roth, by the way. She's very good. Talk to her, and she will guide you into how to report crimes and how to liaise with the police. Central police, like Kripos for bigger crime, NC3. And also, don't be afraid of these guys. They're really nice, really good, and they're stupid good at what they do. The PST in Norway, and SUPO and SEPO in the other countries. So if you can be honest and transparent with them, they will help you. All the lessons learned. Of course, 2-factor authentication has been solved, strong passwords, use the advanced threat protection mechanism that is available to you. Don't just assume that nothing will happen with it. You use all the things that is possible to use. And be responsible. The responsible disclosure program is free. It is just a piece of text on your website, and let hackers attack you continuously. It really, really works. Other lessons, this is kind of my proudest moment. This is now part of the policy, that we have transparency as a carrying principle, and we will share information. So if you don't believe me in this, I strongly encourage you to find the report from Recorded Future and Visma, which is widely available. It's on the internet. It's about 70 pages. It's really detailed. But if you really want to know how this professional actor has done the attribution effort, it is all there, visible forever. So you can just read it and enjoy it. And if you don't believe me, you can also go to YouTube and listen to Espen Johansen, because he tells the same story, much more politically correct, without the kind of backdrop of Star Wars. And he basically repeats my message. It's from the security conference in 2019. And I still work at Visma, so I wasn't fired for this, so I obviously did something good. So what will the Alliance release in the future? It's all of it. That is our promise, at least. We will always release when we are attacked. We will always be transparent about these things. It is important for us. So lessons learned 2. This is the second last slide I have before it's weekend for all of us. So these are simple questions that I really recommend all service delivery teams or development teams, or if you're in DevOps, it's a service delivery team, and if you're in operations, ask yourself these questions. How many attacks against your service in the last month? And if you don't see at least 6 to 8 in an internet-facing system, then you're blind and you have to seek out an adult that can help you see better. Wear glasses. The average should be 6 to 8 that is serious enough that you should file a police report. You should be able to see that. The second question is, how did it differ from the month before? This is quite important. So when you reach the maturity, you're able to see the differences in attack patterns, then you have arrived at a more mature level. The third question is frequently difficult to answer, but who performed the attacks? What is the name, address, and who are the known associates of that person? To get to that level, I highly recommend to invest in some kind of intelligence capacity inside your company. We have done that. It's been really fun, and it also gives lots of options for top-level management. So an attack that is performed by a Fin 6 kind of unit based out of Ukraine or Russia, if we know this attack came from them, then we know how to respond. If it's just another hacker who does just another attack, it's difficult to know how to deal with it, apart from increasing the security budget, which of course I would love, because I basically use all that money, but I don't need to use too much of it. It is better to actually try to bring the pain back to the ones who have brought it to us. And how many police reports is submitted? This is something we ask all the companies that we try to buy. Are you able to deliver police reports based on cybercrime? Because this is a sign of maturity. You have to be able to file a police report if you're hit with something. And if you find 6 to 8 attacks a month, and the sum of police reports is 0, that tells me that you're probably trying to hide something. Then you're less worth than if you are able to file a police report. And this one is just for bragging. Last one. How many rascals how many rascals outed and how many robbers in jail last month? Of course, I'm not even close to that. We're trying to be good at this place. But I think it is it's a matter of concern for most companies that we need to be able to assist the police in making the dark figures much smaller. So please report the crimes and support your local police force. The third lesson, this has not been shared before, and it is that law plus time is really fun. Because the attacker in this case, you remember D-7, they launched the attack surface. They launched the control and command center. And then to use the law to take back control over those domains is really fun. So we filed a lawsuit and we won the right to that domain. And the fun thing with these actors, they didn't expect that. Left data behind. I always love that stuff. So don't give up. The attack is not over until you have all the data you need. So we will still continue this. We still analyze data. If we find something more, we will share this. But to go and do lawsuits and take back control over domains that is being used for malicious purposes against yourself, it is a fun exercise. It takes a while. And if they're good, they're deleting all data and everything is gone. But sometimes, just sometimes, they forget stuff there. And they did this time. It's really fun. With that, I hope we all can have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for your time. And of course, if you want to ask me some questions, I'm here until 5.